Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am, as always, your host, Papa Nick Lewis, and this was a weird week. The way things normally work, Monday, Tuesday, I think, okay, what am I going to do this week in my video? If I'm doing a top 10 or a ranking, then I'm listening to music and I'm thinking about how I can arrange these things. On Wednesday, I work through the content and I think, okay, I'm going to talk about this. I'll talk about this. On Thursday, I actually set up my outline. I set up my camera and I do my recording. Thursday evening, afternoon and the evening, I edit. Friday morning, I put the final touches on the edit. I upload and publish the video. In a typical week, I get 25 to 50 views, which I'm comfortable with. And next week, same thing happens, right? Think about it for a couple of days. I record on Thursday, post on Friday, and I get 25 to 50 views. Last week was different. Last week, everything was the same up until the posting time. When I posted my video last week, I was not feeling well at the time. I had a bit of a stomach bug. And so I posted the video, but I wasn't really paying attention to anything. I was just sitting out on the back porch and I was, drinking hot beverages and watching, TV shows on my phone, stuff like this. I wasn't paying a lot of attention to the reaction to the video. But by 5-ish, 6-ish, I posted around noon, and so by 5, 6, that neighborhood, I had in the neighborhood of 1,000 views, which I don't get that kind of response. As of this morning, I'm recording this on October 17th in the afternoon. As of this morning, I had over 14,000 views on this thing. It is hands down the most popular video that I've released. It beat my previous most popular video, my Steely Dan album ranking, which, that poor thing is still floundering with only about 11,000 views. And it's taken like a year and a half, almost 2 years for it to gather that many, much less like 5 days, 6 days. Jesus. In the grand scheme of things, when you look at big names who are YouTubers, that 14,000 is still. I mean, if Rick Beato or Paul Davids had a video with 14,000 views, they'd be seeing that as an off week. For me, it was like earth-shatteringly huge. Small potatoes comparatively, but much larger potatoes than we're accustomed to here at Papa Nick's Music. And it took me a while it was a disorienting feeling to have that many viewers and to have that many people commenting. And I finally found the metaphor that explained it. It felt like I am running a small neighborhood bar. I've got like my handful of regulars, and that's usually all I see. And then for some reason, on one weekend, I have, I'm packed. I've got a line out the door, and every table is taken. It's just like, oh my God, where did all these people come from, right? And so it was an unsettlingly weird week here at Papa Nick's Music, and it showed me a few things about YouTube that I wanted to reflect on here. One of them, I have even greater respect now than I did before for the people whose channels I watch, whose work I admire, who have, huge numbers of fans. I mentioned Paul Davids earlier. Oh my God, I love Paul Davids' channel. I love his videos. He's got such a fantastic vibe, and the quality of his work is just, fantastic. I love watching Paul Davids' videos. Phil Henley's Wings of Pegasus thing I was talking about last week. I love Phil's channel. I love his vibe. He's got lots of good content, right? And these guys have viewers that are I mean, so far beyond anything that I could even come close to sniffing at, that it's not even funny. And yet I still see that they're replying to comments. It was all I could do to keep up with the comments on this video, the one that I did last week. But I see that they're able to do it, and they've got many more comments. They've got many more viewers, and it made it that much more of an impact on me how hard these guys are actually working on this stuff. And so, hats off to the YouTubers out there who are actually making a go of this, who are actually making a living doing this. Fantastic! I'm happy for you. I mentioned earlier I had a lot of comments, and so a few things that were raised in the comments that I did want to talk about. The main reason I'm doing this video is so that I can address some of these comments. I think it's not just that I'm trying my best to milk, because I'm sure I'm going to get that. You're just trying your best to milk this. You're still on that. You hate this particular vocal coach. You hate him, and you're just, No, I'm not trying to milk this. I am intentionally not using the vocal coach's name as I go through this. I'm not going to put his name in the title. I'm not going to put his name in the description. There's not going to be any mention of his name. Part of this is, Beetlejuice, 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 right? I don't want to conjure up the flying monkeys. But also part of it is I don't want to even be mildly construed as trying to build my reputation on his current difficulties. So, no. I can talk about the situation. I'm not talking about the guy. Well, I will talk about the guy, but I'm not talking about him by name. So, there are some things that arose as I was going through the comments, as I was fielding the comments, that I do want to talk about. It's just that there are some issues in here that I think do merit some conversation. Don't worry, if you're one of my 25 to 50, this is not turning into let's bash the vocal coach. That's no. Despite what some people are saying, that this is not a growth strategy for the channel. There are a few mild comments, mildly negative comments that I want to address because there's a larger point that I can make about them. Right? This is not just me going through my comments and batting them back and forth. Comment number one, I had a couple of people who took me to task because I like Disney stuff. Now, I also had a couple of people who praised me for my Disney stuff. My hey up here on the shelf, for example. But I was wearing a Disney shirt, and I've obviously got Disney stuff back there. And I had a couple of people who said, "Oh, Disney, geez, come on." And just so you'll know, you watch one of my videos, if you make a comment about the stuff I've got as opposed to the things I'm saying, I'm not paying attention to your comment. If you're complimenting my stuff, then I'm happy to hear it. But I'm not here to that's my stuff. That's not what my video is about. My video is about the words that are coming out of my mouth. Also, you should know that if you're criticizing me based on my stuff, I'm automatically filing you under the general category of asshole, because that's an asshole move. I had a guy once who responded to one of my videos, it might have been my Steely Dan video, by pointing out that I had a cheap guitar in the background. The guitars I've got back here are cheap. The Telecaster that I've got is a Mexican Tele, so it's not exactly a high Tele. There we go. This guitar over here is an Oscar Schmidt, so it's obviously cheap. That's a Taylor, so it's a decent guitar, but it's a cheap Taylor. That the bass guitar back there it looks like a Hofner, but no, it's an Epiphone knockoff. I have cheap instruments. I have cheap instruments because I am not a particularly wealthy person. I can afford cheap instruments. If I want to have instruments, plural, they have to be cheap. If I put all my instruments together, they are probably worth one, maybe two good guitars. And I would rather have 10 guitars that I can afford than one or two that I can barely afford. So yeah, I have cheap instruments. So if you tell me that I'm not worth listening to because I have cheap instruments, I'm automatically thinking, okay, you're an asshole who thinks that how much money I have in the bank somehow correlates to how good my knowledge level is or how sound my judgment is. In which case, no. There's your rope that you can go piss up, right? And I put the Disney stuff in that category. If you're dismissing what I say because I've got Mickey Mouse on my T-shirt, yeah, it says more about you than it does about me. Second comment that's worth talking about real quickly, that's mildly negative. Had a couple of people comment on how the volume is low. That is intentional. A couple of things that go into that, a couple of reasons why the volume is lower on this channel than on most other channels that you are probably visiting, particularly if you're interested in music discussion videos. One, I, like many people my age who have long been fans of loud music, I have tinnitus. And I, as a result, have come to appreciate lower volume. But more importantly, I don't like people who speak with high volume. I don't like screamers. Now, I don't mean actual screamers. I'm talking people like, and at the risk of oh, how dare you criticize somebody, how dare you criticize your betters. It irritates me to watch Rick Beato, because Rick Beato is a screamer, right? He talks it seems like he's talking at the top of his lungs. You can almost see the veins in his neck bulging by the end of his video. And I have to crank the video down, or the volume, down if I'm watching one of his videos. I don't want to do that. I want to be the opposite of that. So yeah, the volume is a little bit low. You're welcome. Final mild criticism that I want to address. Several people who told me that I should get to the point. I've been watching this video for 8 minutes now, and you haven't said anything. Well, no, I've said plenty of stuff. I've just haven't said anything that you were interested in yet, because I was providing context for people who didn't know what I was talking about. Because the 25 to 50 people that I get on a regular basis here are not necessarily well versed in what's happening in music discussion videos across the board. I'm not going to assume, I did not assume last week, for example, that anybody watching my video knew who Phil was, or knew who the vocal coach was. And so, yeah, I'm going to tell you what's going on. I'm going to give you context. I value context. I think context is an important part of any given conversation. And so I'm never going to neglect context. I'm always going to dwell on it. And I'm going to give you credit for having an attention span. If you find your attention wandering and you want to skip ahead a little bit, I'm not going to fault you for that. Knock yourself out. Now, let's get into the meat and taters of the actual criticism that I got. First, if you're going to stand up for if you're going to stick up for somebody, if in this case you're going to stick up for the vocal coach, if you're going to put a comment on somebody's video to try to argue in favor of the vocal coach, just know if you start it by saying, I'm not a big fan of the vocal coach, but we all know that, yeah, you are. I'm not a big fan of this particular guy, but oh man, he sings in a way that makes, I've angels weep every time he sings, and so you really should watch yourself there. It's like, if you take the I'm not a fan but out and compare it to one of the more run-of-the-mill flying monkeys who's just coming out and saying it, they're saying the same thing. They're making the same point. So yeah, I understand trying to give yourself cover by saying I'm not a fan of, but don't do it. Just own it. You're a fan. It's okay. Nobody's going to think less of you. Go ahead. The flying monkeys themselves gave me 3 general criticisms that are, they might be lumped into the same criticism, but I'm breaking it out into 3 actual discrete chunks. Discrete chunk number 1, how dare you criticize vocal coach? Which actually has 2 chunks in it. The first chunk is, how dare you do this? As if I need permission. as if, that it's very much a, how Don't you realize that this is your better? This this don't talk back to your elders. It's that kind of screw you. I'll talk back to my elders all the time if I want to. I dare criticize anybody because that's kind of the way free speech works. We all have the ability to criticize, so take your dares and jam them with walnuts. But how dare you criticize this vocal coach? Well, what I tried to point out time and time again in the comments is I don't think I ever did. I think I got accused of being more critical than I actually was, which makes me think that it's possible, just possible, I'm not engaging in conspiracy theories here, but I think it's just possible that some of these people who were responding to the video didn't actually watch the video. They assumed I was doing something without watching it. It's kind of what a flying monkey would do. How dare you criticize? Don't you realize vocal coach is really a good singer? Don't you realize vocal coach is really a good guitar player? How dare you criticize them? How dare you criticize his singing or his guitar playing? I didn't. The only critical thing I said about him was that I pointed out that I have a hard time taking him seriously because he reminds me so much of Sean Hayes. And I still can't believe I'm the only person who sees this. I did criticize his video, but that's not criticizing him. That's criticizing his video. His video was a logical shambles, I said, and I stand by that. I wasn't criticizing him. I was criticizing his argument that says, "Nuh-uh, you're just jealous," because that's schoolyard bullshit that we all should have outgrown many, many years ago. That's what I'm criticizing, not criticizing the guy. Chunk number 2, "You're just jealous," he said, not even realizing he was giving himself a segue. No, I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous of the vocal coach. The vocal coach is a very good singer. Yes. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a decent singer. I don't think I'm top of the world. I don't think I'm the best. I'm the best singer you're ever going to hear. No, but I can carry a tune and I can sing with emotion, and I can, I've got a decent range. I've got 3 octaves-ish of range, which, for a self-taught singer, vocalist, that's not bad. I've got a pretty good sense of pitch. I do well when I'm performing. I'm not jealous of the vocal coach's vocal chops. The chops that he has are in a style that I personally do not value. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just he does a type of singing that I'm not particularly fond of, that I would not particularly want to do. So, okay, it's just like I'm not jealous of opera singers and how good they are, because frankly I wouldn't want to sound like that, because opera just drives me around the bend. Same thing with his guitar playing. I'm not jealous of the vocal coach as a guitarist. He is a very good guitarist, but he is a shredder, and I am not a shredder. I have no desire to be a shredder. I do not have a great deal of affection for shredding. That's not the type of guitar playing that I personally admire. So I'm not saying he's bad. He's just not my cup of tea. So no, I'm not jealous of the vocal coach. I am not, this is not, you are not listening to the Green-Eyed Monster, even though I am wearing a green shirt. And then the third, "You're just trolling for views. You're just capitalizing. You're trying to make a name for yourself by tearing someone else down." No. No, I'm not. I am not a full-time YouTuber. I never want to be a full-time YouTuber. Oh, gee, if dealing with flying monkeys is part of being a full-time YouTuber, count me the fuck out. No, thank you. I do these videos for fun. I do these because I enjoy doing them. I do these because over the last couple of years I've developed this nice little community of 25 to 50 viewers, and we get together every Friday afternoon and I chat for a bit, and they'll leave occasional comments and I get a nice little conversation going, and I like that. I also do this because it's one of the few creative endeavors that I have where I've been able to consistently meet a self-imposed deadline for as long as I have. If you knew anything about my creative process on any other creative work that I'm involved with, you would be stunned that I've been able to hit the mark and release a video on Friday as anticipated for as long as I have. And I want to keep that going. I want to see how far I can go before I finally say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm done. It's been fun. I'll see y'all later. We're not anywhere near that point yet. But that's why I do this. I'm not doing this. I have no illusions that I'm going to develop a multinational audience, that I'm going to have, millions of people, just waiting for my latest pronouncement, and I'm going to get money, and I'm going to be an influencer. And no, I'm not 12 years old. I don't think like that. I do this because I enjoy doing it. I am not trolling for views. And frankly, I'm not turning my nose up. I'm happy that I got 14,000 views on last week's video. That it pleases me greatly. But if the trade-off is I can have the 14,000 views every week, but I got to deal with the flying monkeys, screw that. I'll stick with my 25 to 50 people with no flying monkeys. It's a much better, much better work environment, much better creative environment, I should say. No, I am not trolling for views. If anybody who takes even a cursory glance at my videos, at the topics that I talk about, and the number of views that I have, will tell you, it's obvious I am not trolling for views. That's not what's going on here. There are also some positive things that came out of the comments. The whole reason I posted the thing in the first place, the whole reason why I wanted to talk about the situation in the first place, was that I saw in this situation between Phil Henley of Wings of Pegasus, I almost said Phil of Pegasus there, yeah. I saw in this situation between Phil on one side and the vocal coach on the other, a difference between people who value the objective and people who are trying to subvert the objective. If you want to read that as me being critical of the vocal coach, go to town, have fun. In this point, I'm going to be overt, so yeah. The vocal coach was deliberately trying to subvert objectivity, was deliberately trying to tell us that things that we could see with our own eyes were not actually there. And I wanted to talk about this because I saw this as a microcosm of American politics. And frankly, politics in the greater world at large. America is not the only country dealing with this as an issue. I saw it as a microcosm, a way that I could talk about this difference between something that is objectively real and something that is subjectively real. And yeah, I know I've already switched which hand is which. I don't pay attention to that sort of thing. I saw this as a microcosm of that conflict between the objective and the subjective, which meant that it was something that I could talk about that was music, but that I could make a political point with, even though I did not overtly make the political point. There were enough people who made the connection in the comments that I felt gratified that, yes, they understood it. There were also enough people who, the split in the comments gratified me. One of the things I have mentioned before, we have a tendency to decry the fact that our population here in the States is helplessly, hopelessly polarized. We're polarized on everything. Oh, we can't agree on anything. And that is both like stunningly obviously true and always has been, and a huge crock of shit. Okay, it's stunningly obvious true in that anything that is capable of being a source of disagreement is by definition polarizing. You've got people who think it is and people who think it isn't, and that is polarization, right? So polarization is a fact of life. If you've got difference of opinion, you have polarization. Polarization is in and of itself not an issue. It's always there. But at the same time, it's also a crock of shit, because we tend to think that we are polarized on these political divides, that we've got the people who believe in the fascist and the people who see that the fascist is a fucking idiot. And these people, they're hopelessly separated. No. The actual people involved in this conversation are relatively few. We've got some people who see the fascist, some people who believe the fascist, and the overwhelming majority of the people who don't give a shit one way or the other. We are not helplessly polarized along political divides the way many people would have you believe. For the most part, our problem is not that we're polarized, it's that we're apathetic. And because the majority of us are apathetic, the few people who think, the few people who believe, the few people who are the loudest end up monopolizing the conversation. We think the knee-jerkers are more numerous than they are because they are loud. They are squeaky wheels, and because they are squeaky wheels, they get grease. But most people are neither. And I was glad to see that borne out in the comments. Yeah, I had a few flying monkeys, and I had a few people who were jumping on the bandwagon of just, kicking, busting the vocal coach's kneecaps, which I'm not going to stop them from doing that, because frankly I understand why they're doing it. The man encourages that kind of response, so but most people were able to deal with the subject with a certain level of grace, a certain level of civility. Most people could see what was going on. They didn't see it as this guy is a lunatic. I'm just going to focus on how creepy his tongue is, and most of them aren't. Okay, this guy is the voice of an angel, and he's the best guitar player who ever lived. So you need to shut your blaspheming mouth. Get his name out of your mouth. Most folks were nice and normal and right there in the middle, which is the way it always is. But that was the week that was. What do you think? Is there anything you want to add to this? Are there any final shots you want to run across my bow? Drop them down below. I always love hearing from you. Even if you're a flying monkey, go for it. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd appreciate it if you'd click the like button. If you do click the like button while you're down there, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you've not already done so. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to me, so I very much appreciate it. If you do subscribe, go ahead and click the bell for notifications. The YouTube folks like that, something to do with how they rank videos and how they suggest and stuff like that. So on their behalf, I thank you as well. Thanks again for watching today, and I hope that the rest of your day is untroubled. See you soon.